back to another interview episode of the Midtown Madness podcast. I'm incredibly excited to wade into this era's waters for the first time since I've started doing these interviews. And Pete and I are super excited to welcome in the Venice Menace, Erwin Claggett, to the show. Clags, thanks for joining the show. And I think we dive right in. Where and when did the Venice Menace moniker start? I always attribute it to Rammer. Am I wrong?
No, you are not wrong. Rammer, I didn't even know it. Rammer kind of came up with it. Of course, when you're playing, you don't get to see the broadcast or anything. But during that time, I was in school, man, and I was like kind of out and about, and I see people hear people talking about there's a Venice Menace, there's a bit of Venice Menace, and I was like, where does that come from? You know, and then I kind of heard about that, so he was calling me on air, so it kind of stuck. But good name, but shout out to the Rammer, man. Rammer was a man, He's still a man. So yeah, he came up with the moniker, and it still stuck to this day.
I'm not sure there's a better play-by-play and color commentary team. I know there's not in the A10, but I'm not sure there's a better radio broadcast team in the country.
I totally agree. Not only that, those guys are very knowledgeable, and they've seen a lot of basketball. You know, Earl come from basketball roots, of course, you know, with his uncle Wes Unseld, and he knows the game in and out. And, of course, Rammer. And both of those guys are true and blue Billiken guys. So, it's nothing better than listening to Rammer and Earl kind of get after it on the radio, man. I love it.
So speaking of Venice, so you grow up there, and what's the experience there like? And not too far from St. Louis, but kind of seems like its own thing at the same time.
Yeah, it's funny, man. When you grew up in Illinois, like I was an Illinois boy, you know what I'm saying? So St. Louis, even though it was only 15 minutes from me, it was pretty foreign. You know, my mom worked at when I was younger, she worked at Barnes Hospital, but that was the only attachment pretty much I had to St. Louis. And besides emos, because she took us there often, emos on Hampton. But besides that, man, you know, it was all about Illinois. Like I was a Bears fan, somewhat. My natural love, of course, was the Cowboys, but I hate to say it, I kind of was a Cubs fan growing up as well. I was a big time Fighting Illini fan. That was my dream school, you know, kind of growing up. So, I was really like an Illinois boy growing up, you know, even though I was only 15 minutes away.
What's your go-to order at Emos? What are you getting?
Oh man, I think I'm getting the sausage pepperoni with bacon, man. That's the go-to. I got to throw some wings in there, and so I got to get a salad, get some roughage, and some jalapeno poppers. There you go.
Wings. You're speaking my language when you're talking wings. I am a connoisseur of buffalo wings. Who's the more famous Venice native, you or Ted Savage?
Ted Savage. Ted Savage is the man. Yeah, Ted Savage is the guy. And we actually used to golf at, I don't golf over there as much anymore. It's a golf course called Grand Marais over in East St. Louis at Frank Holden Park. And I actually golfed there a lot with my father-in-law when he was alive, and we played there every Saturday. I used to see Ted over there often. But yeah, Ted Savage by far. Ted Savage is the man. Still the man.
So what's your development like as a player? You play at Venice High School. Are you playing AAU ball? When does it really start to come together?
Yeah, it's funny, man. When I grew up, Venice is a small town. Venice, Madison, Lovejoy areas. I'm a product of all three towns, which is pretty much the same. But it's a small area, but it had a lot of talent. But not a lot of guys kind of got that opportunity at that level of Division I and playing kind of higher level basketball. So, and I was kind of on that same path, to be honest with you. I had a great high school career probably for 3 years. And then I played basketball for a new club called the St. Louis Eagles with Rich Gray, who was the founder. Ron Golden was one of the guys that kind of helped. Pee Wee Leonard was around, Preston Thomas. guys like that. But Rich and Ron and Rich was really like the kind of go-to guy and the founder in the financial piece. He kind of did a lot of it on his own. So I played for him. Nobody knew who I was. And I went to AAU Nationals with Scott Highmark. Scott and I played together all the way when we were like 16, 17 years old. Julian Winfield, Eric Bickle, and I went to AAU Nationals, man, and I had a phenomenal tournament. You know, you didn't have all the tournaments that they have now. You know, it was like you go to AAU Nationals and each state had like the top team. So our top team out of Missouri was the St. Louis Eagles. So I got a chance to play against Chris Webber, Bashan Leonard, Jalen Rose, and guys like that in that class of 91. Big dog Glenn Robinson, you know, and I played well, man, and nobody knew who I was. And then when I got home, I probably had like 30 or 40 college offers, you know, and from then on, it kind of took off.
So which ones of those were the strongest? You mentioned Illinois as your dream school. Were they in the mix?
Illinois wasn't in a mix at the time. They kind of came in late, but they had just recruited Jamie Brandon. I don't know if you remember Jamie Brandon. I think Jamie went to Chicago Simeon, and they had a guy by the name of Rennie Clemens that played at Springfield Cavalry in Illinois. And Rennie was a year older, and Jamie Brandon was a year older, or maybe a couple of years older than I was. So they kind of came in late. Illinois was still my dream school, man. I was a big time Flying Illini fan. That team was like crazy good, man. Kenny Battle, and I thought I was Kendall Gill because I had like the high top fade with the juices and berries up top. You know, I had the fade on the side. I used to dunk with my left hand, and I wore number 13. Like that was my guy kind of growing up. So but you know, St. Louis U was like always in the back. You know, a big influence on me of going to St. Louis U was Coach Lee Winfield. Coach Wynn did a phenomenal job of recruiting me. He recruited a lot of local area guys. Just so easy to talk to. He was almost like an uncle, you know. So it was real easy transition to come and play for him.
Do you have any good Lee Winfield stories? Because to tell you the truth, I mean, I was 3 or 2 when you were coming to Spoon. Not to make you feel I don't want to do that, but do you got any good Lee Winfield stories? Anything that would? I know. I'm sorry, my dude. I'm sorry. Any Lee Winfield stories? Kind of give us an idea about what he was like.
Man, Coach Wynn was like the coolest, laid back person, but so knowledgeable about basketball that you would ever meet. And I remember he had a full sweatsuit on my first day of practice, right? And Coach Wynn used to come in, he'd be excited, man. He'd be hyped. And I didn't really know much about his playing career. He was a hell of a basketball player, not only in high school, but in college. And then he played in the pros as well. And back then, like when he was coming out, a lot of black players a lot of them didn't go to top colleges because top colleges wouldn't recruit them. So it didn't have anything to do with talent. But Coach Wynn, I can't remember what school he went to. But anyway, I remember the first day of practice, man, and some guys were talking and Coach Wynn was just hype, cheering everybody up, motivating. And one of the players was like, Coach Wynn, show the young fella something. And I was like, what is like? I think at the time, Coach Wynn was like in his like late 40s. I'm like, what is he gonna show me? Like, he stood under the rim, no dribbles, and jumped up, cocked the what in the world is going on? Like, for anybody to know, like anybody, even like the most athletic person to stand under the rim with no dribbles and just to jump down, put the ball behind his neck and dunk it with authority, like that floored me, you know. And it gave me kind of some insight of what kind of athlete he was probably 20 years before then. They used to call him Leaping Lee. You know, that was Julian's dad. Julian and I, you know, we played AAU together. We kind of bonded like brothers, man. That's still my guy to this day. And Coach Wynn, man, definitely, man. I love that. I love Coach Wynn to the core, man. Rest in peace, Coach Wynn. But he was a big influence on me. And that would be one of the first stories I remember. You know, Coach Wynn did a lot for keeping the guys together and keeping them in and ready to go.
Did you have much of a relationship with Coach Grauer before you came to SLU, or was it mostly Winfield?
Yeah, it was mostly Coach Wynn. I kind of got to know Coach Grauer when I got there. Just like with any coach, he pushed me hard every day in practice. I hated it, at that moment, just like any other 18-year-old kid. I came in thinking I was like hot stuff in the first 15 games. I couldn't get on the floor, and I didn't know why. I thought I did well in practice. I was scoring on guys in practice, but at the same time, I didn't know much about the game of basketball and how to play it. And that's what Coach Grauer was kind of trying to teach me. And that was pretty much my relationship early on. I really probably they let Coach Grauer grow after my freshman year. I had grown to appreciate him more towards the tail end of my freshman year. And of course, after he was gone and Coach Spoon came in and did a phenomenal job as well. But I really got to appreciate a lot what Coach Grauer did for me.
Do you ever have any weird recruiting visit stories? You hear nowadays about, crazy parties, whatnot. Anything weird on the road? Not necessarily with SLU, but any of those, like maybe go visit Illinois or anything like that.
I'm gonna plead the fifth on that. My visits were like the best visits, the most respectful visits. We sat around, we drank a lot of water, we sung Kumbaya and play Uno. That was it. That was my visits, man. That's all I got for you.
He knows where his bread's buttered at with SLU High. Good
That's
old
all I got for
Jesuit.
you.
Good old Jesuit college visit.
There you go. There you go. There you go. No, the visit, I mean, it's like with anything, man. You love people to tell you you're the best thing since sliced bread, and you got all the recruits, man. They telling you all the good stuff that's going on. But I don't have any kind of, honestly, I don't have any kind of probably out of the ordinary recruiting tales. I visited, I think when I came out, I visited Colorado. The coolest thing is I went to Colorado. Eric Bieniemy was at Colorado when I went to visit Colorado, who's the offensive coordinator now at KC. I don't know if you guys remember, Colorado was stacked. I think the year before, their quarterback had died. But that year, I think it won the national championship. They had Darian Hagens, Eric Bieniemy. That team was loaded. I think they were number one in the country. That was the Boulder, Colorado. I wanted to go to Colorado just because of the campus. Like, it was the most amazing thing that I ever seen. And of course, they all have pretty girls and they all have unlimited this and unlimited that. So, those things are all competitive, but when you're an 18-year-old kid, but the campus at Colorado was like phenomenal. But I went there, I went to Iowa State. Johnny Orr was at Iowa State. I don't know if you guys know much about Johnny Orr, but legendary coach. He coached my high school coach as well, so they kind of had sort of an in. I went to Northern Iowa, a friend of mine, really like my older brother, Dale Turner, was there. He's from Venice, Illinois. Northern Iowa was too cold, and St. Louis, you won out, man, because, the location. And my mom got a chance to see me play every home game. So that meant a lot to me.
You come in with Scott Highmark, Julian Winfield. You guys have a pretty tough first year under Coach Grauer. What's kind of the environment around the team at that time? How'd you guys weather that first season?
Man, I tell you what, man, I had never been through anything like that before. I think we started with 15 players, and by midway through the season, we were down to like 7. It got so bad. Guys were just leaving for various reasons. And I thought we had a really good team to start off with. Big Chill, Melvin Robinson, I believe, is still to this day. Now that I look at like the NBA centers now, that's kind of what Melvin kind of embodied there. 7 foot, very athletic, can shoot the 3, can run 4, block shots. he was like kind of before his time, and he left, Carlos Skinner left, and before you know it, man, the floodgates opened up. And all that left was pretty much freshman Quentin Dillard, at the time, who was a senior, so very tumultuous year. We won five. I think we went 5-23. We were like, they had us ranked. They used to show the ticker of the worst teams in college basketball, and we were always up there because we could win a game. But people didn't understand. We were basically playing all freshmen at that time, and I think that kind of helped me out a lot because I kind of got to fail. When all them guys left, I played a lot, and not only did I play a lot, I started figuring some things out. Scott and myself, we started having a lot of success as a freshman that kind of catapulted us for the rest of the year. So it was bad in that sense, but the good part is, and the bad part, of course, was Coach Garrard getting fired. And not only Coach Garrard getting fired, Coach Winfield, as he left with him. I hated to see Coach Win go. I wish he would have got an opportunity to be the head coach. But that wasn't in the plans, I guess. But I guess the best thing about that is we were able to gain a lot of experience. I think that helped us out because our sophomore year we were a little better, and then our junior and senior year we blew it out the water. And I don't think that would have happened had we not played as much our freshman year.
Listening to you,
and we got to lose a lot, so we learned what not to do. So that helped.
Right.
listening to you talk about getting the chance to play as a freshman and learning to fail and that kind of thing. It brought up memories of the year Kwame and Willie were suspended under Majerus. Is that something you kind of saw too? Like, were you like, okay, this is gonna suck this year, but down the line it's gonna turn these guys into the players that they'll be?
Yeah, definitely. During that time, of course, for other reasons, but those guys, not able to play, I'm pretty sure they'll tell you, it made them hungrier. I'm pretty sure it pissed them off as well, not getting that opportunity. And when people don't understand, man, guys, you put blood, sweat, and tears on that court, man, to prepare. And you sacrifice a lot, time away from family, time away from friends, and all of those things. And I'm pretty sure they left a bitter taste in their mouth, the way things happen, and them not getting that chance. But at the same time, those guys that were left over, it gave them an opportunity to kind of grow. And the guys that didn't get a chance, it gave them an opportunity to kind of gain some hunger too, and you kind of combine all that together. And I think just like, during my time after my sophomore year, I think the program it just kind of took off, from there, and we were able to sustain it for quite a bit of time. So, and it's kind of like the same thing back then when that happened with them guys. The program kind of took off, the NCAA tournament wins, and all of those things.
Was it a conscious decision between you and Highmark to come to school together? Yeah. Myself,
Julian Winfield, Eric Bickle, who played on our AAU team. Eric played at Ridner, and Ryan Grant, who was from Effingham. Effingham is a far ways away, but at the same time is local in a sense too. And Bickle, myself, and Julian, we all played AAU together, at a pretty young age. So we all made that kind of decision to kind of stick it out and play together and go to SLU. We all had home roots. SLU was new. It was a new league. And we thought we had a chance by the time we graduated. We didn't know it would happen the way it did, but we thought we had a chance to do something really special.
So Highmark, after that season, makes the decision to stay. Winfield, I guess the decision's a little easier, when his dad is leaving. He transfers to Mizzou. Were there decisions made before you? Did you make it together with Scott to stay, or did you kind of think about transferring out as well?
No, I was out. I was gone. I was going to, I had two schools. I was either going to Iowa State or Northern Iowa. I had made my mind up. And actually, Coach Winfield sought me out, and I was a little angry at the fact that he didn't really get a chance to kind of, interview and be the head coach as well. He was just gonna kind of be let go,
Mhm.
just like Coach Garage. So that left a bitter taste in my mouth. So I was gone because of that. But Coach Wynn saw me out and he talked to me and he just explained to me about the benefits of staying home, the benefits of not leaving. And he really it kind of showed me the character, his character, his true character, that he could have easily been scorned and been like, yeah, you need to get out of here because they don't care about you. Look what they did to me. He looked at SLU as being beneficial to just my development, just as a person. And he seen me grow in that year. And he thought the best situation for me would be to stay put. So I listened to him. Everything else that he had done for me up until this point, it had worked out. So he was really a big part of me. I'm standing there. Coach Spoon came in. He said magic words. Clagget, whenever you feel free and you get your feet set, you can let it go. And Coach Spoon kind of opened it up and he allowed me to flourish and be the player that I wanted to be. And that was all I needed.
I want to go back to that season, that first season. You guys played a Memphis team that had Penny Hardaway on it.
Yeah.
What was Penny like back in the day to play against?
Oh man, I tell people to this day, and I played against Tim Duncan. I've seen all of these cats play, man. Penny Hardaway by far was the most talented college basketball player I've ever laid my eyes on. We played Memphis State, and this was early on my freshman year. I wasn't playing much. And I walk in the gym and we're warming up, and the fans are throwing pennies on the floor, like literally pennies. It's pennies littering the floor. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like, what's going on? And I see these signs like Penny's $1 million man. We're in a pyramid. The pyramid is rocking. They had just opened the pyramid. At that time, of course, now it's like some Bass Pro fishing kind of deal, but the pyramid housed the Memphis State Tigers, and they opened it. We opened it on the road, and I looked at Penny, and I was like, "You talk about he was skin and bones then." Penny's a good friend of mine now. We often golf together whenever I go down to Memphis, so I kind of tell him the story all the time, but. Man, I never seen anything like it. This cat was like 6'8", 6'9". He was long. He was stupid athletic, very skilled. And he was just a dog, man. And the first play, I remember Julian bringing the ball up the floor, and I was on the bench. And it seemed like Penny sat at half court, man. He looked like a praying mantis. And he ripped Julian so quick. And in 2 dribbles, it looked like he was laying down and he jumped inside the rim. I've never seen anybody jump that high before. And I'm like, man, what in the world is going on? And he did it again. He picked him again and went down and he reverse dunked it. Coach Grau calls a timeout and he looked at me and said, Claggett, are you ready? And I turned my head. I turned my head like, hell no, I don't want any part of that. But that was my introduction to Penny Hardaway, man. Not only Penny, man, that team was so good that they had, man, Billy Smith and David Vaughn and I were in the same class, but he was good. He played in the league. That team was like crazy good at Memphis State, man. But yeah, that was my introduction to Penny Hardaway. I was like, man, this dude here is for real. And I think that was the year he was coming off of Prop 48 too. Back in those days, you didn't pass the test. They did this terrible thing to kids where they made them sit out a year. And it's Prop 48 and he couldn't play and all of these things. He couldn't practice. And this was the year he got to come back. And of course he played one more year and he was like one of the best players in the league the following year. So yeah, Penny Hardaway by far, man, he was an amazing player. Then I got to know him. He's a really good person as well.
So I'm guessing you're excited for the matchup in a couple weeks at FedEx.
Man, I'm trying to get down there. I don't know. I got to look at the schedule. I don't care. I teach. So even if I'm teaching the next day, I'm going to be in the building. I got to get down there and see my boys take on Memphis, man. They're going to have a pretty good team too. But I really like our chances. Even with Javante going down, that was still that's going to be a tough pill to swallow. But I'm a big believer in our team and our guys and our coaches, man. I think we're going to do well.
You want a carpool down there? I'm looking to get down there.
Hey, let's make it happen. I'm good with it, man.
Oh
Let's
my
make it
God.
happen.
That would just be the most absurd. We can make some real weird podcast content on that.
Let's make it happen.
It's
I'm
like some
all
weird-
in. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna be in the building. I'm gonna find a way to get down there for that game. That's gonna be a good game.
Yeah, I think so. Hopefully the Billikens can do some work.
So
Yeah.
you
I
mentioned
really like this team, man. This is go ahead.
no, let's stay on it. You like this team?
No, I was just saying, man. Yeah, I like this team, man. I've been down to a couple of practices. I always like I think Coach Ford and Coach Tate, and the rest of the Coach Jack and now Coach Phil, Coach Stewart, when he was there, man, like I think those guys have done like a phenomenal job, man, of keeping our local kids home. People don't understand. I always look back, for the most part, probably besides the Majerus era, it's always been good when they were able to keep their local kids home. They were able to keep the good local kids home. They had a lot of success. You look at our years, you look at the previous years with AB, even before then with Luther Burton, Pee Wee Leonard, all those guys, they were kind of on that up and rising. Our guys kind of took it a step ahead and made the tournament and made some noise. When Larry came in, his group with Matt Baniak and John Redden and those guys, they were good. And Justin, the following year, with Tatum and those guys, Marquis Perry, even though we can claim him local, he was Chicago. But SLU has been good, man. When we're able to keep some hometown talent home, and I'm really excited, by Yuri's development. I think Yuri's one of the best point guards in the country by far. His innate like passing ability and and able to read the game and manipulate the game and make players better, man. It's like absurd, for a kid, and he had it for a long time for a kid that age to kind of have that. And I see TJ, I look at Fred, and those guys. Now we got Franco back home, man. And Javante is homegrown. He went to school right down the street. So it's just exciting, man. When you chart kids when they're in high school and then they go to the home school and they have success, it because they wear it, it means a little different to them, I think, because that's their home school. So they go that extra mile. That's kind of what I felt when I went to SLU. That's probably what Scott and Julian felt when they went to SLU. We just lay it out on the line a little bit better, man. You got to represent your hometown, and I think that does wonders for us. And Coach Ford and Coach Tate has done a good job of keeping that talent here.
I wanted to make a little bit of a right turn. You mentioned Yuri Collins, and the word on the streets is that you worked with him a little bit on his shot this offseason. Can you walk us through kind of what the plan was and how you guys kind of worked?
Yeah, I just I reached out to him and we kind of connected, and I was able to just kind of give him a couple of pointers and some things that kind of helped me, and it's sort of I've always liked Yuri. I played against Yuri when I, of course, coaching at SLU when he was at St. Mary's. We had a couple of battles, but he's an awesome kid, man. He's a great person, and he's a phenomenal basketball player as well. I've always respected his game, and it was just a piece that I saw that was sort of missing, and I just kind of wanted to, ask him, and we talked about it, and we hooked up, and apparently it's sort of working out. I told him, we can continue to work. He just, as long as he let me know whenever he wants, I'm always accessible to any of the guys, for any of those things, because the more success they have, like the better it is for not only our program, but our whole city. So any little way I can help the program, man, is, I'm always there.
I always say Yuri Collins is 6 foot, but walks like he's 6'8". Like that dude just walks like he has huge cojones. I don't know. It's crazy. Just the
Yeah,
confident energy he walks with. It's crazy. Even stepping on the
he's
court
a
as a freshman,
really,
he had
yeah,
that.
he's a coach. Like Yuri's a coach. Look, Yuri's basketball IQ is like off the charts. And to have someone like that, I think the main thing he had to learn probably as a freshman, and I talked to him about this when he was younger, I should kind of come to practice and kind of sit in his ear about communicating, talking more, be more vocal. And that's a hard thing for young kids. And as they get older, they get a lot more confident. But right now, his confidence is at a all-time high, and it should be. He's one of the top dogs, and I think in the entire country. So I feel really good about our program because we got him at the helm running the ship. So as long as Yuri stay healthy, man, running the ship, I think we got a chance against anybody.
Yeah, and he's definitely showing more of that scoring ability this season already in the exhibition games for sure. So circling back to your career and scoring ability, you said Coach Spoon came in and said the magic words, right? Because I'm looking at your sophomore stats here, and that's a green light if I've ever seen one. You basically had unlimited, green light for shooting that season.
Yeah, I actually my sophomore year, man, I played the point. So we brought a guy in, Carlos McCauley. He was a freshman, and I was a sophomore. But for the most part, I played the point, so I had the ball in my hands a lot. So not only was I had the responsibility of scoring. I think that was probably my highest scoring year. I probably averaged like close to 20 points a game.
Yeah.
But also, had to run the offense and get everybody involved. And that really kind of helped my game when Coach Spoon kind of put the ball in my hands and allowed me to grow. And I think he kind of probably understood that he was going to take some lumps by doing that, but at the same time, he knew it was going to be beneficial for the program in the future. So, yeah, my sophomore year, statistic-wise, was probably my best year. All of my years were fun, even the bad years. My freshman year, probably the worst year, but it was still fun because I learned so much. But my sophomore, junior, and senior year, man, I couldn't even dream of it being as great as it was. Just not as far as like my own personal production, but just the team success and the players that I got a chance to play with. To this day, a lot of those guys they're still my brothers. Like we still keep in contact. And when we link up, it's just like we were in that dorm room 20 something years ago, sitting back on beanbags and just, talking crap to each other. So I kind of got that out of everything. I gained a family, by playing at SLU.
You mentioned kind of Spoon giving the green light. What else was kind of different in the style that Coach Spoon brought, and what did you find similar?
Man, Coach Spoon came in. It was crazy. I had never seen this before ever. Right. So first day of practice, we get our practice uniforms. Of course, we have the Russell Athletics. These guys got Nike and all this like amazing gear now. But we had Russell, and they gave us these tights, right? And the tights had like pockets in them. And I'm like, that's when everybody wore tights underneath the shorts, like the biker shorts or whatever. And I'm like, why are these pockets in there? And then they gave us pads, and they were like, you're gonna need them. I was like, it was football pads. So I actually had thigh pads and hip pads in my shorts. And I was like, and the first day of practice, he come out and he lined everybody up on a baseline, and he picked two, you and you. And he would just roll the ball and he said, go. And I'm looking at the next guy and he like, go get the ball. He just screaming and screaming. So you just run and you just dive on the floor. And from that day, I started understanding like that's all practice was. It was the most intense hour and 15 minutes that I ever done. We never practiced more than an hour and 20 minutes. People don't know that about Spoon. We never worked on offense in practice. People didn't know that about Spoon. As great as shooters that we were, Spoon was like, if you want to get shots up, you're gonna do that crap after practice. So we would stay after Scott, myself, H, Carl Turner, guys like that. We would stay after like 2 hours after practice to get shots up because we didn't shoot in practice. Practice was an hour and 15 minutes of diving on the floors, beating the crap out of each other. It was the most intense thing in the world, man. And we actually wore football pads. One of the guys actually had to wear elbow pads because he elbowed guys a lot. So practice, it was the most physical practices I've ever seen. I've never seen anything like it. You know, till this day, probably, you know, they probably call DFS on Spoon if they do something. He had us go to practice to each other. So, but yeah, man, that was Spoon, man. And practice was so hard that the games were easy. I look forward to the games because it was nothing like practice. I had already been through the wars. Like in practice, he used to put a guy on me in practice. I never forget this guy. This was my man. His name was Derek Falk. Derek Falk's goal and thing was to beat the crap out of me every single day. And whenever I came off screens, he would just knock the hell out of me. He would rake my arms. He would grab. He was hold. He would scratch. And it was like that every day in practice. So when I got in the game, it was free. It was easy, you know, and everybody was the same way. He pushed everybody to make you, whoever you're playing against, you're gonna push them to the limit. All right. And sometimes it ended up in fights. It was pushing matches. It was all kind of things that went on in practice.
Spoon brought in a transfer, Donnie Dobbs that year. I cannot explain why I love Donnie Dobbs as a 4 and 5 year old, but I did. Tell me something about Donnie Dobbs, on or off the court. Just a good story about Donnie.
Zach, I can't tell you nothing off the court, man. I'm sorry, man.
All right, then get me Donnie Dobbs on the podcast.
I would not. I want to incriminate myself on the podcast. I want to incriminate myself on Donnie Dobbs with what went on off the court. We had a name for Donnie. We call him the dog. But on the court, I'm telling you, first of all, what people don't know, Donnie was very, very skilled as a basketball player. Like Donnie was really like a guard. People don't know, like we used to have shooting contests in practice, and Donnie would sometimes outshoot me and Scott. And he would always let us know because he liked to talk a lot of crap. That was basically what he was known. You think Kevin Garnett and Gary Payton talk crap? You haven't seen anybody talk as much noise as Donnie Dobbs. But he was a 6'4", and he was built like nothing. He had wide shoulders. They were like bowling balls. He had real skinny legs. And he was stupid athletic, but he had a real big butt, like a Charles Barkley butt on top of that. So he was freakish looking. But man, I seen Donnie. Donnie had a thing he called body love. So whenever he posted guys up, he's like, give me the ball, body love. So he give him the ball and he just pound guys. He crab dribble, and he just jump on top of like 6'9" guys, jump hook, dunk on them. And he let him know all the way down the court, you can't guard me. Clagget, give me the ball. Keep giving it to him. He gonna get body love all night. So that was his thing, body love. Donnie was like, man, he was like the engine. He was the Energizer bunny for us. He was the round mound of rebound. And he was a good rebound. He'd get these rebounds. And he would squeeze the hell out of the ball. And when guys come, he would yank them and throw elbows at him. He was mean. And mean, skilled, and he didn't care about anything but winning. And if he were on his team, like we were, he'd go to bat for you. Slew is probably never see another Donnie Dobbs. And I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. And he was a really good person. Like Donnie really liked that good time, though. I can share Kenzie. You guys remember Spuds McKenzie? You ever remember Spuds McKenzie, the dog?
Yeah, yeah.
And the Bud
Bud
Light
Light.
commercials?
Yeah.
That was like the life of the party. Yeah, well, like Donnie Dobbs was always the life of the party. Yeah. You knew where he was because you heard him. You knew in the locker room who was the guy. You knew on the court who was the guy that was going to get everybody riled up. He was going to get your team riled up, and he was going to get the other team pissed off. And then after the game, he was going to be the guy that kind of get the party started. You know, Donnie had a phenomenal like reputation about that. So I was really lucky to play with somebody like Donnie. Like I said, not only was he was a wild man off the floor, but on the court, man, he was a demon, man. He was a dog. He really was. He was incredible on the court. At 6'3", he played the 4. Yeah, so it was tough.
I got to show you something I just found. So Googling Donnie Dobbs. Can you see that? I don't know if it comes through.
Yep, I see it. That's him.
What do you think? What does that? I mean, that's just the coolest thing in my mind. I don't know. I thought it was super cool. I'm a huge nerd. I don't know.
So for the people listening on the podcast, it's a 92-93 Billikens roster, but they're all laid out like they're like trading cards. So it's a picture of everybody with their name.
Oh man, I remember this, man. This was my sophomore year. And
we got you up here.
Ryan Grant, and there's Ryan. Ryan got hurt. His career got shortened. Ryan was an incredible basketball player too. He could score the ball, man. He liked to play defense, and I can say that I didn't like to play defense. I didn't really have a choice when Spoon came in because that's all we did was play defense. But Ryan hated defense, man. But man, that kid can score. But yeah, that picture, I remember. That was Donnie, man. That was Donnie. Soft touch. He can handle it. He can shoot the 3. But his main thing, man, he liked to post guys up, man, and work in the paint. You know, that was his deal.
Probably the player.
If you guys ever get a chance to kind of, go ahead.
No, finish up.
I was just gonna say, if you ever get a chance to like see any film, I don't know if there's any YouTube or anything on there, but I've never seen a guy that size. I talk about Penny Hardaway. I never seen a guy 6'3", wheel and deal like he did in the paint, man. He got about 9 or 10 boards every game, along with his 15 to 16 points.
Yeah, he was a good, tough Spoon player, on and off the court, apparently. So probably the player from that era, obviously, that people associate most with you is Scott Highmark. Were you and Scott roommates?
No, I was roommates with Brian Smith and Corey Graves, and then my freshman year I was roommates with Julian. But Scott lived down the hallway. He was right down the hallway. We lived over it was Grand Towers. I guess now it's like Marquetti Towers or something like that.
Right.
Right across from the Shell station. So at that time they actually had residents that sort of lived there. So Scott was down the hallway, but it was sort of roommates because we hung out, we ate dinner together every day. We were always together, but that was probably the extent of it. Scott and I have always been, that's my brother, man. I love Scott. Like Scott and I, like to this day, I cannot talk to Scott for 2 or 3 months. And, when we link up or we talk to each other, man, it's like we were back in the dorm room together playing video games. Like his family, I love his dad, man. I love his mom. Now his wife and his girls, he was real fond of my mom, and my family. So we're linked for life.
We're gonna need you to get him. I ran into him at the Chipotle over on Olive I think last season, I want to say, and I was like, you got to come on the pod. We gotta get him on the pod next. He's a great white buffalo.
Make that happen. Oh, we're gonna make that happen. All you gotta do, let me know. I'll talk to him. We'll get it done. He ain't gonna say no to me. He better not say no to me.
I appreciate that.
I got you. I got you.
No, I'm curious. You guys went to Pauley Pavilion that year and played UCLA. Fairly
Yep.
close game, 268-54, considering you're on the road at Pauley against UCLA and you're playing against Ed O'Bannon and Tyus Edney. Did that game mark kind of I mean, you guys lost it by double digits, but did that give you an idea that there was a marked difference between the year prior?
Oh yeah. And actually that game, I remember that game. Pauley Pavilion is amazing, by the way. But I remember that game with Tyus Edney. Tyus Edney was, man, I never played it against anybody that was that quick, that can change directions that quickly with the balance and the explosiveness that he had. But we went down to the wire. The score really doesn't indicate how close that game was. I still kind of recall some of the moments in that game. And they kind of pulled away at the end. But just like you said, Zach, pretty much that game towards the tail end, especially, we start seeing like progress, and that game propelled us when we got to the NCAA tournament. We played Marquette. I can't remember, Marquette was like the 1 seed or the 2 seed. We were, of course, one of the last seeds. I think we had won like 9 or 10 games that year. And we played Marquette at the Pyramid in a Great Midwest Conference tournament. And my sophomore year, I had won like first team all conference honors, which was something new. And we played Marquette with Jim McIlvain and Damon Key and Tony Miller. That team was unbelievable. I think that was a team that might have beat Kentucky that year in the tournament. It was either that year or the next year, but we beat Marquette in the conference tournament. And that game that you're talking about, that UCLA game, that was a game that kind of gave us a lot of confidence towards the tail end of the year, that we can kind of compete with the big boys. UCLA had always had talent, man, but I don't know why they could never put it together. But Ben Holland kind of got out there and got it straightened out, and Steve Levin did a good job too. But yeah, that you was right, man. That game kind of showed us what we were capable of, and we carried it into the tournament. And not only beat Marquette, but we almost barely got Memphis State the next round with Penny Hardaway.
Yeah, and in Memphis too.
Yeah, in Memphis. Yep, exactly.
So you've got a lot of so it seems like, you've made market improvement that year over the year before. And it's kind of crazy to me to make a turnaround like you did the next year, because you go from a 12-17 team that goes 1-9 in conference. And all of a sudden you're 23-6, you finish second in conference. You finish the regular season ranked 24th in the poll. I mean, what do you credit for such a significant improvement year over year? Was it just another year under Spoon's system? Was it kind of some new blood on the team, or is it something we're not even thinking of?
I think it was a combination of all of that. Like I said, at the end of my sophomore year, we had made markedly improvement in all facets of the game. Donnie was dominant inside. Scott and myself were two of the best perimeter players in the league. And this is a league that had, like I said, Tony Miller and Rob Ochterman, Penny Hardaway and Billy Smith, Nick Van Exel. All those guys were in the league. And we were like one of the top, perimeter players in the league, with those guys, the sophomores. So that was there. And I think Coach Spoon and, Coach Lee that was there, Coach Lackey, they did a really good job of, we were all going to be juniors. They didn't go out and get high school kids. They actually went out and got a host of junior college players that were kind of at the same maturation level as we were, and I don't know if that was like a plan, but it was definitely a successful kind of bid, because when those guys came in, we had one high school guy, which was Jeff Harris. He came in from Arkansas. Jeff was a 6'4" center who had the heart of a lion. You had David Robinson, who was JUCO. Donnie Campbell was JUCO. Saku Barentine was JUCO. Carl Turner was a junior college player. So he mixed all those guys into what we already had and brought Jeff in. And off the court, how we clicked off the court was just like incredible. Like we were all attached at the hip, and then our games, we didn't have Scott and I like to shoot the ball. We like to gun it. I'm not gonna lie. Like I love to shoot. I love to score. I had a lot of success doing it. That never altered when those guys came in. They just kind of fit in and like filled in the spots, so it was perfect, so that next year, man, we were right for a big year. We didn't know that it was going to turn out the way it did. I think we started off the season like 11 or 12-0 my junior
14.
year. We played at the 13-0.
14.
Yeah. I can remember we played, it was either Missouri State or Carbondale. I think it was Carbondale. I remember the days at 5-23, as Zach had mentioned, we had like 500 people in the stands at the arena. You could hear a pin drop. And my junior year, we were warming up. We didn't even think nothing of it. We knew we were on a roll. We knew we were pretty good. We were just playing and having fun playing with each other. Success was just coming because we just love basketball and we love playing with each other first and foremost. So that meant a lot. Whenever you get a team that like playing with each other and playing for each other, they got a little talent as well. You got something pretty special. And we came out my junior year, man. We played Carbondale. I remember running out of tunnel, and it was like 20,000 people in the arena. It almost brought a tear to my eye. I looked at Scott, and I know he was kind of thinking about the same thing. Like, man, I can remember running out the arena, man, with 500 people in the stands. Like, the only people that were cheering was my mom and his parents. So now we got 20,000. You got people running around. You look up in the stands, and then you start recognizing like baseball players, pro hockey players, politicians around the city and things like that. And we like, wow, this thing is blown up, So, yeah, man, it was just a mixture of all of that. Like you said, we got better. Coaching staff did a really good job of bringing some players in. Not a lot of notoriety, with just perfect blend for what we had, and it all worked out.
I want to get to Jeff Harris because I've spoken with Jeff on the previous iteration of my podcasts, and he's one of my favorite people. He was one of my favorite players, and now he's one of my favorite people. Absolutely hilarious to talk to. We talked to him for like 2.5 hours. But I'm curious. I also need to ask you about the Brett Hull incident, the drunken Brett Hull incident.
I don't think I know about the Brett Hull incident.
Hull's banging on, or this guy is yelling, banging on the locker room door. He's like, I got to see Spoon. Where's Spoon? Where's Spoon? They open the door and it's Brett Hull, and he is shit-faced drunk and trying to talk to Spoon.
No, I don't remember the Brett Hull incident. I don't remember that.
But no,
I know those guys used to be at a lot of our games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was, around like Wayne Gretzky was on the team then too. And he would show, I think he showed up in the arena. I think Jeff Harris said he ran into him once. I think like Gretzky walked by him. He's like, hey man, good game today. And somebody told Harris, like, do you know who that was? And he's like, nah. It was Gretzky. So, but I'm curious what you would attribute. You look at the 14-game winning streak. Yeah, winning solves a lot of things. But, we've seen these Billikens go on win streaks recently like that, and you don't see Chaffetz being sold out. But when you guys have your streak broken by Marquette, Marquette gets ranked. They come to your place. You beat Marquette at home in front of 18,158 fans. What do you attribute that, like, the city embracing you the way they did? What do you attribute that to?
I think a lot of it, like I said, man, we had some hometown guys. Like, even though we brought Jeff and David and DC and all those guys, and they were very important to the team. The face of our team was still was myself and Scott Highmark, local boys and local kids that have been there at the bottom, and all of a sudden now is on the rise. We were sort of the face People can remember us when we played in high school. Um, I had a fan base from Illinois. Sky had a fan base mixed, and I think that was the thing that drew the attention of a lot of people in St. Louis. You know, that we had those local guys here, and we had that success at the same time. So it was something for a lot of people that was tangible. You know, it was like these are homegrown guys that are on a national level and having a lot of success. The same thing I think is going to happen with these guys. If these guys have that type of success, when they go out and they go on these win streaks and they start winning a lot of these games, the city is going to get behind them, and they're going to support them, and they're going to be there. You know, it just so happened at that time, and we had a really fun brand of basketball too. You know, we were solid defensively, but we shot a lot of threes. You know, you look at Golden State. I look on the NBA now. I think I was looking at a stat the other day. I think the average number of threes, like people shoot like, I think teams are shooting like 36 threes a game on average. And we probably shot 19 or 20, you know, so we were sort of before our time. I look at the stat sheet at the end of the night when we played. I might hit 3 or 4. Scott might hit 8. You probably hit 2 or 3. David Robinson hit 1. And at the end of all that, you look up and we have like 12 or 13 threes, you know, but it was just all within the flow of the offense. And it was fun to watch because bombs would be dropping from everywhere. We had 6 or 7 guys that was letting it go. So it was real fun to watch when you come out and you see local guys and you see this blend of other guys, and they're all playing well together. They're sharing a basketball, and threes are just falling out of the sky. People are high-fiving, having fun. It was fun, man. It was just like, you know, you go and you see live dunks and all of that. We were shooting threes, you know, and we were making a lot of threes, you know. So I can imagine when you watch teams like Golden State play and you watch Steph Curry and you watch Klay Thompson and them guys shoot the ball, and they're like ridiculous shooters, you know, and you see that, man. It's like, it's the same, you know what I mean? Like it's just a fun brand. So I think our brand of basketball definitely brought a lot of people out as well. Not only having hometown guys, but the fact that we played a really fun brand of basketball.
What was more fun, the brand of basketball or hanging out with Jeff Harris off the court?
Man, and I can't stand Jeff Harris. No, I'm just kidding. Jeff was actually just in town last week. We went to dinner. He came in town and, you know, we had dinner. Oh, man, we sat back, man. We laughed, we joked. Like I said, I hadn't seen him probably in a year. I talk to him all the time through Facebook and text and all of those things. Sometimes on the phone, but man, it was cool, man. We just talked about old times, man, and laugh and joke just like we were back up in the dorm room. But it was a fun brand of basketball, but I really, really enjoyed playing with the people that I played with. Like, it was fun going to practice knowing I was going to get to play with Scott. I was going to get to play with Carl. I was going to get to play with Jeff and DC and David Robinson and H. And then when we get done playing and practice and having the wars that we had in practice, we were going to go to the diner and we were going to eat dinner together. Then maybe we're going to go watch a movie together. We're going to hang out and play video games. So that was a lot of fun. I actually got to play with, like, not only my friends, but like my brothers, like they were family, you know, so that meant more. So the brand was fun. But the fact that I got to enjoy the brand with the people that I had a general affection for, man, it meant a lot.
You and Scott, like I said earlier, are probably the two, you know, names people know the most from that era and put up the biggest numbers. But the guy who was right there with you guys was H. Waldman, who came in for those 2 seasons. But he kind of remains a little bit of an enigma to SLU fans. You know, he's not around the city anymore like you guys. He's not from there. He's got the unusual first name. What kind of dude was H?
Man, believe it or not, H had he had 2 sides to him. So you had the real conservative, reserved side that was real conscientious. They got it that like was like the voice of reason. And then you had the other side. He had this little thing on his shoulder, and he can be like the wildest person you ever met. The guy that would do anything. The life of the party. He was like a Dobbs. His other style was the Dobbs. H was my roommate. He sat out. He stayed in West Minister place. I used to babysit his son sometimes, and H and I were like, we were always together. I was probably closest with H on the team during that time period. But yeah, H was just different, man. It was weird because he could be so conservative and reserved, and then at the same time, he can be like the wildest person you ever met. But that was the Vegas in him, and that's what you had to kind of remember. Like, this dude is from Vegas. Like, H was like the mayor in Vegas when he was in high school. He went to Clark High School, which is one of the top public high schools. He was a McDonald's All-American. His dad was like a big time lawyer in Vegas. So he was well known in Vegas, just as we were kind of well known in St. Louis. But of course, Vegas is on another level than St. Louis. Probably at 18, H was going into clubs and going into casinos, eating free and enjoying all the perks as if he was like a movie star. But at the same time, he had this quiet side where he can be in a library reading a book. Just after you get done reading a book, he probably gonna go tailgating and drink you under a bar.
I think Jeff Harris tried to call H. Waldman the last when we had him on the like literally in the middle of the interview, we had him try to call H. It was kind of funny.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Didn't work out, but the NCAA tournament. How'd you feel going through the selection show process? Were you excited, nervous that maybe you weren't, that 93, 94 season? Excited, nervous, going into it? How'd it go?
Yeah, the 93, 94 season, I was really, excited. I was a guy, I remember NCAA tournament every year when I was in high school. I used to play hooky when the NCAA tournament started. I used to cut out of school, man, and go home and watch games. Channel 4, CBS had it. I remember one shining moment. I always had my bracket. I had 4 or 5 brackets, and I wasn't betting any money because I didn't have any money at that time. Still don't. But no, just kidding. But I would fill my brackets out, man, and I knew about the players. Like, I was a basketball like nut, during that time. So, definitely, playing and then having a chance to play in a tournament, man, it was a dream. Like, you got to remember, like, we went 5-23 my freshman year, and I remember Donnie Dobbs and I were in a car one time my sophomore year, and I was like, man, what'd be cool if we got to the tournament? I said, man, if we went to the tournament and we were that good, man, this city would be on fire. I was like, man, that would be my dream, man, to play in the NCAA tournament. Like, most guys think about, if you go to Duke and you go to Carolina, you talking about winning the tournament, but when I was at St. Louis U and we won 5 games my freshman year, my whole goal, my junior, I'm like, man, I want to get to the tournament. So that was a conversation my sophomore year. So I can remember selection show, man, we sitting down and we eating pizza, and we saw our name called, man, the excitement and the joy that was in that room, man. Like, I wish video was like social media was around then so we can kind of capture those moments, but it was definitely something that was real special.
If they had the amount of coverage they do now back then, you think you would have graduated high school? Or you think that weekend march would have put you under the 60%, the 70%?
Man, if they had social media back then, God, I don't know where I would be. That probably go for a lot of us, man. Like, people talk about now, these kids got it rough, man. They are under a microscope, And always you got to kind of be careful of your surroundings, who you with and what you're doing and all of that. But nowadays, man, it's like you can't have any immature moments, even as a teenager. And teenagers are that, they're immature. They do stupid stuff. You know, it just nowadays when you do stupid stuff, 17 or 18-year-old kid for doing stupid stuff and being a teenager, and it'll hurt them for the rest of their lives. You know, so that's the unfair thing that I don't like about social media. Everything's under a microscope.
So you guys, so you hear your name called as the number 7 seed going into this game, and you've got Maryland, who's the number 10. How'd you guys feel about that matchup when that came through?
Man, you know what? I had always said, because I used to watch Joe Smith. He was a freshman at Maryland. I was like, man, this dude is like crazy good as a freshman. But they were like in the middle of the pack in the ACC, you know, and I used to always say like, man, I would love to play at ACC schools because that's all they showed on ESPN was ACC schools. It was Duke,
Right.
Carolina, Georgia Tech, Maryland, you know, all of these teams. And I was like, I want to play against AC. And lo and behold, it came out and we had Maryland. I'm like, damn. It was like it was a good matchup except for Joe Smith. Joe Smith was probably the worst matchup for us because he was so skilled at that age, and he was so mature in his game at that age. You couldn't speed him up. You couldn't out-tough him. We tried to get in him and be physical with him, and he just kind of played his game and made it real difficult with us. He was great on defense, and they had a really good supporting cast. And they were the middle of the pack in the ACC. I think the worst thing that happened to us is we had a 9 or 10 o'clock game in Wichita, Kansas. You know, we came out and all you smelled was like horse manure, you know, because they had redid like some rodeo arena and made it out of a basketball arena. You know, and I had never played a 10 o'clock game before, you know, before that. So we wake up at 7:30 and we had breakfast and we got walkthrough and we got this game at 10 o'clock and we weren't clicking, man. We didn't get going. You know, I had a pretty decent game. Scott struggled a little bit that game, and that was kind of abnormal because big games, he always showed up. But I can kind of attribute it to that, man. Like, our guys collectively, man, we were not ready to go, man, you know, and it's just something that, you know, we always thought we were good enough, we were going to turn it on, but Maryland was game that day, you know, and they kind of edged us out at the end. I think I made a turnover late. They kind of hurt us. I think we might have been down 2 and got the ball, and I made a turnover and they scored and it went up to 4 and we never could get it back. But yeah, that was the one thing I remember at that game. And it was really early and we were not ready to play. And
you know, you're selling yourself short there. You had quite the game. I mean, you went 6 of 10 from the field, 2 of 3 from 2, and 4 of 7 from 3 for, you know, 16 points. You had 3 assists. I mean, 4 turnovers. I mean, maybe that knocked you down to an exceptional game. I mean, I don't know. To me, you had a great line. The real question I had, though, is Evan Peterson starts but plays 2 minutes, and David Robinson comes in and plays 34 minutes off the bench. What happened there?
man, David was very versatile. You know, I don't know what his numbers were, but David was capable of scoring inside. He could shoot it. And we ran a lot of offense through him. Like, he was a good passer. He was definitely a good screener and pick and pop guy for us. And he was a lot more athletic, even though he wasn't like Penny Hardaway athletic. Evan Peterson was just a bad matchup probably for Joe Smith that night. You know, we needed somebody that can move, that can kind of went with David for longer stints.
Yeah, I mean, and Smith winds up with 29 and 15 in that game. So you know, clearly it was his morning.
And he went number one right after that.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
was the number one pick in the draft.
Right. He made a statement.
Do he ever send you a check for
I know, right?
some
I know,
royalties?
right? It's so crazy, right? So I got Joe Smith my junior year, and the next year we win a game against Minnesota, which was a dog fight. I had never been in a game that physical. And then I got Tim Duncan right after that.
Yeah.
So it was like, man, I can't catch a break.
Yeah, and Randolph
And even that
Childress.
was a game even that was a game we should have won. Like we should have won that game. That was probably the worst shooting game all our shooters had like the entire year. Nobody shot well. I think Scotty might have had a good game that game.
Yeah, Scott was 4 of 10 of 3 that game, but as a team, it was 9 of 39. And H it had the roughest one. He was 1 of 10 from the field, and
Yep.
0 of 8 from 3. Sorry, 4 of 10 from 3 and 9 of 39. Those were all from 3-point.
Yep.
But you guys only shot 35% overall on that game too. So it was. If you have an average shooting day, you probably win that one pretty easily.
And I think David had a great game. David Robinson had a great game that game. If we even shot 40%, we win that game. We were winning the game pretty much the whole game until they decided that they were just going to pass the ball to Tim Duncan, and there wasn't anything we can do about it.
If the mailman doesn't deliver on Sunday, H. Waldman, being the Vegas kid, doesn't deliver at night, or doesn't deliver before like 8 o'clock at night.
Oh man, that was the only game. Myself, Carl Turner, H, man, we were just off, man. We couldn't throw, and we had some great looks. We had some great looks that game, but we couldn't throw it in the ocean. But we kept saying like somebody's gonna make one, because normally when that happens with us, all it takes is one or two of our guys to make one, and it kind of like spreads around, and everybody kind of start feeding off of it. Nobody can make a shot besides probably David Robinson. None of our perimeter guys can get going, and and Wake Forest ended up coming back. Like I said, they didn't throw the ball to Tim Duncan early, and then late in the game, I remember Randolph Childress was like, nobody shoot the basketball except for Tim Duncan. And I was like, all right, here we go. And it was bank shot, jump hook, bank shot, jump hook, and that was it.
Yeah, well, there's no shame in losing to someone who would go on to be one of the best players in NBA history.
The best power forward ever, no question.
But circling back to the start of that year, so you guys are coming off, you've lost one tournament game. You went to the NCAA tournament, lost a game there. How confident were you guys feeling like you could kind of run this thing back?
Oh man, we were real confident. We knew we were going to be one of the best teams in the country the following year. We didn't lose anything. I had to make a decision after my junior year. That was when, kids were kind of leaving school early to go to the league. I had to make a decision. So I decided I wasn't, maturity wise, I wasn't ready, physical wise, game wise, so it was an easy decision there, instead of, kind of jumping off into that. And plus, we had a lot of unfinished business there. So, once that decision was made and got out the way, and we had basically our whole team back, I had a really good idea that we were going to be pretty special the next year.
And you start 8-0 and clearly are special again. Don't lose until you run into that, top 5 in the nation team, UMass, coming in with Coach Cal and Marcus Camby and Lou Rowe. What do you remember about that matchup?
Man. So I filmed the game, and he gave me a copy of it. And first of all, that game, it was like super hype. Dick Vitale was there. He came to practice. We had the newspaper, we had the Sporting News article that they talked our team up and how good we were. We were on Sports Center every night. Dan Patrick, was crazy about our team. So like we were hot news. I think Marquette might have played Temple. It was some kind of 8-10 Great Midwest shootout. I think Marquette ended up beating Temple like the game before. But I can remember that game, man. It was a slugfest, but we could not contain Lou Rowe. And I had watched Lou Rowe probably 4 or 5. Marcus Camby didn't play that game. I think Marcus Camby grandma had died. His grandma raised him. So she had suddenly passed and he didn't come. And they were like ranked #1 in the country. It was sort of a downer because we wanted them to be whole. You know how that is.
Right. Yeah.
You're looking forward to playing a team, and then one of the top players not there, and you kind of let it down. And then they ended up beating you with all the other guys. That was a little bit of it. But definitely Lou Rowe probably had the best game of his entire college career. I think he was like 15. It looked like he was like 15 for 16. I just remember the announcer every other minute yelling Lou Rowe. And we couldn't make a shot, man. Like that was another game where, and it was close, like all the way to the end. You know, we didn't pull it off. They ended up beating us. But like I said, man, I remember my uncle filming that game and giving me a copy, man. To this day, I've never seen that game. And I watched a lot of my games. Like, of course, you watch film afterwards. That was one game that I never touched. Like, I never watched it. You know, even now to this day, I can't watch a clip of the UMass SLU game.
Still stings, huh?
It still stings, yeah. Because it was one of those games, man. I think it was like 19, 20,000 at the new Kill Center, which is not established, Skytrade, whatever it's called, 1,000, man. You had like a who's who in the crowd. ESPN was all over the place. National televised. It was our first time on a big stage. So we were looking for it and we were ready. We had the players, we had the team. We just didn't show up, you know, and get the job done. And, you know, that stung a lot because I really wanted to St. Louis, man. That's what it was all about. Whenever I put on that 13 and put on SLU, that jersey, man, it was all about putting on for the city, man.
Yeah.
One of the other big opponents that year in conference specifically was Cincinnati. We talked a little bit about, or I did, I guess, with Jeff Harris about Cincinnati and Danny Fortson and Bob Huggins. And one of the big storylines with Cincinnati and Huggins is that Huggins and Spoon were big time drinking buddies. What do you remember specifically about that Huggins Spoon relationship that you can tell us?
Man, I know they had a really deep respect for each other. Spoon was fiery about the game. Huggy Bear was fiery about the game, but also he was really, really passionate, I guess, and fiery with his players. Where some people would say they kind of crossed lines, I guess, you know, how they kind of like interacted with each other, but that was just kind of the way Huggy Bear was and how he was with his players. So he and Spoon had that kind of natural affection with each other. And they were kind of like two of the same, but yeah, definitely they were like big time drinking buddies. I had been out a couple of times where I seen him out, you know, and when I saw him, and I think Culpeppers used to be the spot back in the day in the Central West End. And Spoon and Huggins, that was like their favorite spot. Spoon stayed in the Central West End, you know, and I remember going in and seeing Huggy Bear and seeing Spoon kind of tossing back, and I went in one door and went right back out the other door. I wanted no parts of that. Yeah, they were really good friends, man, but they were really competitive. Like, they wanted to beat each other. They talked crap to each other on the court and all kind of things, man. Like, yeah, they did. And I can remember to this day, Huggins still kind of tells the story of him coming to St. Louis and he kind of had us beat, you know, and I think I ran off a succession of like 2 or 3 threes that kind of closed the casket on him. Scott had a great game. We had it clicking on all cylinders. They were like top 10 in the country. We were top 15 in the country, you know. So those battles, man, with Cincinnati, man, they were big time during that period.
Yeah, you guys split that regular season, and then they got you in the 3rd round of the conference tournament that year by 2 and up in Milwaukee.
At the buzzer. So we played in a conference tournament. I think we might have been a 1 seed. Our first chance to get a conference tournament, man, and it was like a dog fight. Danny Fortson was killing us. We went back and forth. I think they went up one late. They had a guy by the name of Lazelle Durden, and they had Donnell Burton, another guard, big guards. Donnell was about 6'5". He was built like a brick wall. They had Danny Forson and Art Long and all those guys down low. And man, it was late. They kind of took the lead. And like I said, it was a dogfight the whole game. And Spoon gave me a clear out at the top, and he was like, get the last shot. So I drained the clock, and I thought I did take the last shot. I made the shot and put us up 1 with 3 seconds. For us, I won a conference tournament. We're going to get a top 4 seed. So all of these things are going through my mind, but at the same time, it's 3 seconds on the clock. So they call timeout. We go back to the huddle and we strategizing about defense, what we're going to do. And they throw the ball in at half court. And in my mind, I'm thinking, go double. But if I go double, I'm going to leave a shooter. So I don't go double, and they get it to, I think it was Burton. He got him at half, and it was still 1 second on the clock, when he made it. And they went up, and at the end, I think it was 1 second when Spoon drew up some last second play. Carl Turner actually got it at half court and let it go, and it hit the front of the rim, and we lost the game. And that would have been before, I think, the conference tournament they won. I think when Kenya Martin got hurt, they won a tournament that year. They beat Cincinnati that year. SLU did, meaning we did. Right. But that would have been our first conference tournament. It was like the culmination, man, going from 5-23 to my senior year now, winning the league and winning the conference tournament, man. It would have been like a storybook ending. But yeah, man, the kid made an incredible shot at half court, man. And yeah, that was that, man. And we didn't get a top 4 seed. We ended up getting an 8 seed, as a result. We were put in probably the most difficult region. Alabama was strapped with, I don't know if you remember Antonio McDyess.
Yeah.
They played with the Nuggets for a number of years. McDyess was, Jason Caffey was on that team in Alabama. I think it was Latrell Sprewell had just graduated maybe a year before. But they had Big Country Reeves at Oklahoma State. They was in our region. You had Wake Forest in our region, and then you had Minnesota in our region. And you had Penn that had Jerome Allen, who's a coach now. Jerome Allen was with the Celtics as a coach. I forgot where he is now, but man, that was like the toughest region in the entire tournament. All of us was in the same place. So it would have been a dogfight kind of getting out of there.
Quick right turn. I don't know if you've seen it, but there's a great documentary out there. A young lady from Vancouver who does a documentary about finding Big Country. And because he's like super reclusive now. It's pretty interesting. She goes on like this conquest to find Bryant Reeves, and it's a really good documentary. Anyway, I did
hear he's kind of like off the grid now. Yeah.
Go ahead, Pete. Sorry.
Yeah, well, I actually one of the questions I wanted to ask you about your years in particular. You guys played your first 3 seasons at the St. Louis Arena.
Yeah.
And then the last one at the new Kiel Center. And I'm kind of wondering what that transition's like. I have very fond memories, of both places, but the arena was just over a mile from my house. And I went to a ton of SLU and Blues games there when I was a little kid. So what's the experience like playing in that old, building built in the 20s and then going to this brand new shiny arena downtown?
Man, we actually love the arena, man. I like playing the arena. It was old, creaky. But like I said, it was home to the Blues. And then when they built the new Kiel, the Blues went to the new Kiel. I wish we had kept the arena, the Checker Dome as it was called as well. One of my fondest memories, I remember as a freshman, nobody ever knew this. I used to wear ankle socks, right? So as a freshman, I come out in my ankle socks and my legs were freezing. Oh, it was so cold. And I was like, man, I need some. That's when the girls used to wear leg warmers. And I was like, man, I'm not putting on leg warmers. So I went back to the locker room and I found some socks. I don't know, one of the players had some socks and they were long. So I got the socks and I pulled them up all the way to my knees. And from then on, that's how I started wearing my socks up to my knees. So it was kind of cool because as we started getting a little bit better, I can remember my sophomore year going into like Wold Center, going to like Herbert Hoover, some of the boys and girls clubs in the inner cities in St. Louis. And I remember seeing these kids, man, and they all playing and running around and hooping with their socks up to their knees. So I was like, man, I was like, they had no idea, but that's ice underneath the floor, you know. So they had these wooden planks that they would put over the ice, and then they would put the hardwood floor over the wooden planks. But the floor was still freezing, man. It was so cold. But yeah, that was like one of my fondest memories of like the old Checker Dome. But yeah, I love a Checker Dome, man. The rims are soft. It was a great shooting background for us. You know, the new Kiel Center, we never got to practice there. We just really just played games. We practiced at West Pine and then we would show up for games. So it was almost like being on a road, you know, in a lot of ways. The best thing they did at the new Kiel, they finally took the rims that was in the arena and they brought them over to the new Kiel Center. So that was like the compromise that they made.
I remember watching Marquis Perry as a kid, and of course, I was a young pup, and I was cutting the sleeves off my white T-shirts and putting it under the jersey, playing basketball. Yeah, I was, but it was past the shoulder too. So I was now it's a little dorky, but back then it was the way to go.
That was the thing. I remember that look too. Yeah, and Marquis, man, man, a lot of people don't remember Marquis, man. He was so good, man. Oh man, he was incredible. Yeah, Marquis was good. He's definitely one of all-time greats in SLU history, for sure.
Yeah, he was there in my era, and your story about getting a little cold at shoot around in the arena reminds me. We had a player from Israel when I was there, Isaac Ohanon, and he always complained about the temperature. And this is in the newer arena. He would go into shoot around before a game. Sometimes he would have a hoodie on under his practice jersey, you know, wearing as much as he possibly could, man, and still practice.
Man, that ice was cold, man. Yeah, I never seen anything like it.
Yeah, it's no joke. So we already covered your experience that year in the NCAA tournament, but I'm wondering, so now it's your senior year, you finish up the tournament. What's this period like for you? This last part of being at SLU?
Man, it was like a whirlwind, man, because things shifted from like the jovial, having fun with your friends kind of deal. I've always had another year, you know, so it's always like, man, I got another year with these guys. I got another year. And when it was over, it was like, man, it was down to business, man. It was like trying to get better, you know, try to get my footing and try to extend my basketball playing career, you know, preparing for the draft or preparing for the NBA workouts. I went to a couple of NBA camps right afterwards, and the Portsmouth Invitational was really big, you know, and I didn't know much about it, but they were like, you play well at Portsmouth, you know, you'll get invited to, then it was Phoenix. You know, Phoenix was like the NBA, the big time NBA camp before Chicago. You know, I played well at Portsmouth, and then I got invited to Phoenix, you know. So definitely, you know, that was something. It just, basketball then turned from fun to like more like a pure business, you know. So it kind of robs basketball of like its innocence, because it's all business now. Like, you are the business, you know, your skill level, your body, your person is pretty much the brand, you know, as far as the business. You know, it's just unfortunate. You look at nowadays, I look at that time period that I kind of went through that, you know, and it was tough, because I just wanted to hoop, man. I want to hoop with my guys. That's what I've always done. And now it's like I'm on my own, and, you know, now I got this basketball thing, it's a job, you know. It's fun. I love it, but at the same time, it's a job. And I got to be on my P's and Q's all the time now, because, you know, that's the brand. So it's just unfortunate now when you think back, the things that I'm talking about now during that time period for me, kids are going through it in high school. You know, they looking at like their brand in high school. You know, they looking at post high school careers in basketball. Like I was just looking at trying to get a Division I scholarship so I can pay for school and graduate, you know, because that was the only way I was going to get to graduate is by getting an athletic scholarship. You know, mom didn't have money to send me to St. Louis U or anywhere, you know, so that was my thinking, like use basketball. She always told me, use your talent to make yourself a better person, you know, so, you know, that's what I tried to do. But nowadays kids are like, man, I'm using basketball. I'm trying to get millions. And they're like
Right.
17, 18-year-old, you know, and they're getting up in the morning at 6 o'clock and training and going to school, and after school they're training. So it kind of robs a lot of the innocence out of basketball, just the joy. And then you add on all the extra pressures that they get from the outside influences, friends, and then the parents. The parents are definitely different than they were when I came up. Parents think they do a lot of, and they probably mean well, but I think parents put so much stress and undue pressure on these kids nowadays. You know, a lot of kids can't take it. You know, when you see a kid's development is stunted, they don't get better. You know, in a lot of ways, sometimes it's because of the pressure that they're getting either from parents or outside influence to try to live up to something that they're not at this moment. You know, and I wasn't, when I was a freshman, I wasn't a finished product that I was as a senior in college. You know, my 4 years of playing professionally in Europe, I was way more developed than I was when I was in college, you know, but I was able to develop on my own time period. Nowadays, a lot of kids don't get that opportunity, you know, so it's definitely a lot tougher in that way.
You mentioned Europe. Where in Europe did you end up at?
I played when I came out. It's a little different now. It's so wild because you know, nowadays you can go to Europe and you can play and then you can come back, you know, to the NBA. You know, when I came out, you go to Europe and you basically kind of like an afterthought, kind of lost league after playing in Europe. You know, especially as a guard was like really scarce. I don't know too many guards that had done it. So I played when I came out. I played in Israel. I played a season in Israel. Played a stint in um, Amsterdam and England and Cyprus. I went to Spain to get on for a little bit, you know. So I had traveled well, and then I played 1 year with a team, a local team, professional team, and it actually was a really good team. A lot of former players, Doug Smith, Derek Grimm, and all those guys played. Bernie Bickerstaff was the coach. The St. Louis Swarm. It was like a you know, a league that they try to develop. The pay was actually pretty good in the league. That was one of the reasons why I didn't go back to Europe, because the pay was pretty good. And then it had an NBA feel. Bernie Bickerstaff was an NBA coach that knew his stuff, and he had a lot of connects. You know, so that was one of the reasons why I stayed, and we won a championship, and it was a lot of fun. You know, and I learned a lot and grew a lot as a player as well. So, yeah, that was kind of like my career. Like 2 years later, I was coaching high school, and I've been doing it since then.
You got a favorite place you played in? I mean, Israel, Cyprus sounds amazing. Like those places sound amazing. Do you have any favorites? And what was the culture shock situation?
Man, Cyprus was by far my favorite. I didn't know much about Cyprus. Um, Half of the island is occupied by Turkey. And you know, it was a Cypriot Turkish war back in the day, but half of the island was still occupied by Turkey. So they had like barbed wires up and all of these things. But Cyprus was like Hawaii and some tourist islands to us. A lot of Europeans, when they go on vacation, they actually go to Cyprus, you know. So that was a little different. Um, it was basketball, but it was sort of like a vacation spot. It was pretty modernized, a lot of American restaurants. I guess the biggest cultural shock for me was the basketball is always basketball. So, that's nothing, and the language barrier wasn't as bad. I guess it was, if you can think of anything, it would probably be the food. The food, the interactions, it's not a lot and kind of American things that you can kind of do. So you're sort of isolated a lot. So oftentimes I stayed in the gym, I stayed in the weight room, or I was in my apartment or hanging out with a couple other guys from other teams that was from the States. So I guess the hardest thing would be kind of like the isolation, kind of being by yourself. But the island itself was incredible. You can go to the beach. They had a beach called Ayanapa. And that was like the tourist spot, and they had clubs and all of these things going on. So you can go to the beach and hang out and have fun. But at the same time, you kind of have to remember you can't get caught up because it's a job. And the one thing about Europe, if you don't perform well, they'll send you home, without pay, So definitely that's something you had to kind of keep in the back of your mind.
So your one season with the Swarm, did they fold did the league fold at the end of that? Is that what happened, or did it still hang on for a few more years?
No, I hung on for another year. So we won it my first year, and the next year I left and went and played abroad, and that year they won it again. So the Swarm won it 2 years in a row. And the Swarm was actually financially doing pretty well. They had a good fan base. They had paying fans. They had season ticket holders. It was some of the other teams in the league wasn't doing as well, so the league ended up folding. But Swarm financially was doing pretty good. And it was a great concept. It was some good cities, but some of the other cities just didn't get the support probably from the fans that they should have gotten.
The Swarm are forever linked with in Billiken history for the Anthony Drea NIT game winner against Iowa at the Family Arena on the Swarm home court. Yeah.
Yep. I remember Anthony Drea. Anthony Drea was from Israel, right?
Albania? No.
Albania?
No.
Yeah, his parents are from Albania, but
okay.
he's from Jersey.
Okay. Albania.
Yeah. Good friend of the pod, Anthony Drea. He's a good egg, that guy. You came back and you got your master's in education at Lindenwood. How was that experience to kind of come back home and get back into kind of the college life, albeit graduate school?
Man, it was crazy because when I stopped playing, I actually hadn't stopped playing. I came back home and I went to Venice, and my high school coach that coached me, Coach Harris, rest in peace, Coach. Another one of my guardian angels. But Coach Harris asked me to help out, and I had went off to play, so I was like, all right, cool. I stay. And the program at that time was struggling. My city of Venice, just like a lot of those cities during that time period, drugs had kind of infested it a little bit, so I wanted to help out as much as I could, especially with the kids there. I thought it was my duty to kind of give back. So I decided to stay and help out, coach. And, I helped out for that year. Actually, it wasn't the entire year. It was just when I came back for a couple of months. And the next year, he decided he was going to retire. So the kids didn't have a coach, so I was like, man, so it kind of tugged at my heart. So I made the decision that I wasn't going to play that year. And I stayed back and took my shot at coaching, and I got my brains beat in. I didn't win a game. I went like 25. We had no talent. I had kids that had so many other like personal issues, but I actually felt that I was sort of making a difference in like just giving them something positive and being just a positive figure in their life to like let them know that it's another way to kind of do this thing that we call life, other than kind of what they were kind of accustomed to seeing every day. And it was more so about that. I kind of learned that early on. It wasn't about the wins and losses as much as it sucked losing. It was just more so about just being there for the kids and being something positive, something tangible that was there. And I didn't want to be that thing that was there and then left, because that's traumatizing. And a lot of them had that, for different points in their life, people that were close to them. I did it for a year. And, I had a good friend that called me from McClure High School and asked me, would I be interested? And I was like, yeah, why not? And I took the job at McClure High School, and I did that for 10 years. And then I ended up doing the same thing. The SLU High job came open and applied for it. And, it was a natural fit. The good thing was McClure was such a special place for me, still is. It was a really hard thing to do as far as leaving, but I thought my time kind of was up a little bit, and it was time for a new challenge. And and that's what got me over to St. Louis too high. So that's kind of like, the way my career, kind of happened. Stop playing, not by choice, by kind of doing something that I thought it was my obligation to do, and fell in love with the other side of it, which was coaching, and I've been doing that since then.
Yeah. Now at SLU, you make the transition to one of the toughest, probably the toughest basketball conference in the state.
No doubt.
How do you approach that with SLU's competitive, certainly, but you're going up against CBC and Chaminade and DeSmet and Vianney, and some of these teams are good every year.
Yeah.
Not to mention SLU. Not everybody could get into SLU. Not everybody who gets in can stay at SLU. It's maybe a little bit tougher to keep a program going there. So how do you tackle that?
Man, it was a challenge. It's just so crazy, man. I guess I'm kind of a jerk or stubborn in this way. When the job came open and I applied, that I heard a lot of people say that I was never going to win there. Just for that simple matter that SLU is a more academic school. They can't get athletes into the school. They don't care about sports as much, and you're never going to win there. And I heard all these things, and I was like, it's basketball, and for me, that was a challenge, and that was like one of the reasons why I ended up accepting once they offered the job. And of course, SLU is a pretty prestigious school. So, he kind of offered me the job, and, and I accepted. But that was one of the points of emphasis when I accepted it, is I wanted to kind of change the culture of SLU. When I first got there, nobody came to the games. Nobody cared about basketball at St. Louis U High. Nobody came to the games. They probably didn't have a lot of success as far and notoriety. As far as like being like a really good basketball team around St. Louis. So that was definitely a challenge. I've always been intrigued by different challenges in my life. And I always kind of, look for those things and kind of tackle it head on. And my third year at St. Louis U High, we were in the Final Four, so definitely it was just that those naysayers and that challenge of trying to take a program, because what I kind of had learned, I left McClure, was a really special place with really good boys. St. Louis U High is just the same. Really special place, man. Good kids. Awesome supporting staff at the school. From my AD at the time, and supported me, and still are to this day. So, I'm a Billiken man, and being a junior Billiken man, it's all the same. So, it's definitely it has definitely been challenging initially, but it's definitely been worth it.
So speaking of being a Billiken and a junior Billiken, something we're really excited about as SLU fans is Nick Kramer and his commitment to SLU. We watched him in the EYBL and Peach Jam this summer, and he looks like a college-ready player. With a good build, who can defend, who can shoot. What is SLU getting in Nick Kramer?
Man, highly competitive, driven, fire, you know, the one thing that, you know, I've always talked since I've had Nick, you know, since he got there, and he grown leaps and bounds, not only his game, just as a person. Um, he's been a phenomenal leader for us as far as helping the other kids. Um, he's been an awesome teammate. And that's one of the things that I can say when he first got there, that he was always worried about how well he was going to perform and what he can do to kind of help the team win. He only cared about winning, you know, and that's something that he had to understand, that like it's got to be a way that you're going to do it, you know, and you know, he had to understand that he couldn't do it by himself. And that's one of the things too, a lot of long talks, man, that we've had. I love the kid, man, to death, man. I mean, Nicky's my guy. Um, I think Slew is just getting this, first of all, man, I think they're getting a really good person. He come from good stock. His mom and dad are good people. He cares about basketball. He cares about his teammates. He wants to win. He wants to do it the right way. He understands now how to do it the right way. So I think it's gonna be a hit, man. It was just funny how quickly it happened. And he talked about it just being a natural fit, you know, and he didn't want to look at any other school. Once Coach Ford kind of started recruiting him, man, he made the decision early on to make that, and he made it. You know, it wasn't anything that, you know, myself or as his parents had pressured him into. So I'm excited, man. I'm looking forward to Nicky being with Team Blue and able to kind of contribute to the team, man. I'm really proud of the kid. I'm looking forward to it. I got one more year with him though, but we're gonna try to get some things done this year. But definitely after this year, man, Slew's getting a phenomenal player, a phenomenal person.
You know, you talked about you having a relationship with Yuri Collins, kind of a mentor relationship. You mentioned Nick Kramer being recruited to SLU. What is your relationship currently with Travis Ford? How often do you guys talk? What do you guys talk about? Just, you know, give us an idea.
Man, Travis and I have a really good relationship, man. Like, I consider him a friend, just on a personal level. Like, it's a general affection. Like, towards the Travis is he's a great person, man. He's a basketball guy, but also you know, I look at myself just like him, and he cares about his kids, he cares about his players, you know, and he cares about St. Louis U, you know, and I know that was some probably people question, you know, Coach Ford is gonna be here maybe a couple of years and he's gonna get it going and then he's gonna go and take another job. You know, but the trick was on everybody else. You know, Travis is bonded, you know, to St. Louis U, man, and bonded to the city of St. Louis. And he's excited about being here. He loves his job and he loves the city. So, you know, once, you know, I saw that, you know, early on, you know, it's just been cool, man. We have a really, really good relationship. We can talk basketball, we can talk life. You know, I shoot him a text every now and then. He shoot me a text. We've gone to numerous dinners and like all kind of stuff. Like, Travis is a really good person, man, and a good friend. I'm happy for the success that he's having, and I'm happy that he's on Team Blue. So hopefully he doesn't go anywhere, man. We can keep him around for a long time.
You know, I gotta ask one more question about Spoonhour. Right?
Okay.
We know he loved to booze. Did you? And I asked Larry if you ever got a chance to booze with Spoon. Did you get a chance to share a couple cold ones with Spoonhour?
I have not. That's something that I never did, man. I hate it too. Because I've seen him out a couple of times, like I said before, and I have seen him throw him back. But I never got a chance. I believe H did. H might have been the only one that got a chance to sit down with Coach and have a drink or two with him. But that's something, man, and I never really had an opportunity to do, man. You know, as you know, he stayed maybe a year, I think, after I left, and then he went to Vegas. And he found out the kids in Vegas were a little bit different than the kids that he coached at St. Louis U. And you know, and he kind of got out of it, man. But I miss Coach, man. I learned so much from Coach Spoon. You know, one of the biggest things I learned from Coach, man, I remember one game I played, we played Marquette, man. I had a horrendous shooting night. I might have went like 0 for 13. It was the worst shooting night I ever had in my playing career. And normally when that happens, you got coaches that kind of look down upon you, or they want to talk and they want to give some kind of speech. I saw Spoon in the hallway the next day, and this one I knew that he was pretty special. And I think this was my junior year. He stopped me and talked, and we talked about everything else but basketball. Like, he never met. This game had just happened the night before. It was a game we should have won. We were better than Marquette. We played up at the Bradley Center. I stunk it up, and that was the reason why we lost. I turned the ball over. I couldn't make a shot. I couldn't guard anybody. I was horrible. I cost my team a victory. And I knew it. Everybody on the team knew it. But yeah, when I saw him the next day, man, he stopped me in the hallway, man, and we probably talked for like 30 minutes, man, and basketball never came up. And then that's when I knew, like, he cared about who I was. And more importantly, he knew that I was just going to kind of figure it out, and he knew when to kind of step back and just let me be me and let me figure it out. So Spoon was definitely, man, I learned, and that's one of the things I learned from Spoon. As much as he liked to win, he always said, I might be a cuss, but I'm gonna be the same cuss with everybody. So from the first player to the 15th player, you can people say I treat everybody the same. No, it's probably impossible to treat everybody the same. But one thing you can do is be fair. And I can say he was fair with all of us.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks for taking the time to talk to us today. This has been a thrill. Your era at SLU is the one that really got me hooked on SLU basketball. It was, when I was younger, it was I barely remember the Bonner era. So yeah. When Clagget and Highmark and Waldman are there, that's when I really take off as a SLU fan. So thanks for being a good representative of Billikens all these years and taking the time to talk to us.
No problem, man. I ain't going nowhere. Hopefully soon, man, we can see that 13 hanging in the rafters. All right.
I'm all for it.
I'm looking forward to it.
I got to second what Peter said, except that I have the same memory of your era that he had of the Bonner era, but I was still hooked. I mean, I was, 3, 4, 5 years old, dancing in the aisles, wearing my Donnie Dobbs shirt, getting hyped until the usher had to come tell me to move because the fire marshal was upset that I was standing in the aisle, So no, I mean, I can't tell you how much it means to sit here and let us, pepper you with questions for 2 hours. It really is an honor, man. And hopefully we can snag a beer over at Shafit's here.
Let's do it.
Yeah. I gotta sit with you for a game, man. I want to hear you break it down because.
Oh man, I know, man. I try not to over analyze, man. I try to like sit there and coach, but not to coach, man, but you don't never lose a game from the stands. I can tell you that.
I know that the way I critique, I know that. I've never lost a game either up there.
Yeah, but no, man, it's fun. We got to make it happen, man. I really enjoyed it too, man. Just talking about some of the old days and some of the stories, man, some of the questions, man, it's nostalgic for me. It keeps it fresh in my memory, man. And it lets me know, man, that during that time period, man, like not only myself, but Scott and H and DC and Jeff and David Robinson and Carl Turner, Carlos McCauley, all my guys, man, Marcus Jones, we did something right. We did something right because, we have a bond and it was a special moment because people still remember it, and they remember a good time. So, I like to thank you guys for just sending me down memory lane, man, and asking me these questions and helping me remember and talk about some of these events, man, because they definitely, you talk about it being special for you guys. It's definitely probably one of the most highlight moments of my life, and something that still drives me to this day. So just thank you. You guys keep doing what you're doing, man. Keep supporting our Billikens, man, and we're gonna keep pushing forward.
Hey, you're absolutely welcome, and you're more than welcome. Anytime you have an open invite, you want to come on for one of our regular episodes, break down a game, we'll make it happen.
All right, all
It'll be
right.
a blast.
I'm gonna take you up on that. I'm gonna take you up
Absolutely.
on that.
All right. Hey, we'll let you go. Good luck this season over at SLU High, and do good things over there. All right.
I appreciate you. Appreciate you. I'll see you guys down the road.